Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities. And it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie.
Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
And welcome to Extreme Genes, America's family history show on extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio roots sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. Hey, I'm excited to have Michael Strauss on the show today. He is a professional genealogist, and if you have ancestors who are odd fellows, I don't mean peculiar. I'm talking about belonging to the fraternal organization, or maybe they were mooses or eagles or masons. Michael Strauss has a lot of information you're going to want to hear about, including where to find some of the records from the 18th century and the 19th century and the early 20th century and what are in those records. Great stories coming up today with Michael Strauss, starting in about 8 minutes or so. And of course, we want to remind you the Weekly Genie comes out every Monday, and we'd love to have you sign up for our newsletter. And when you do, you'll get the top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from our chief genealogist from the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. That would be David Allen Lambert, who is on the line with us right now from Boston, Massachusetts. How are you, David?
Doing great out here in Beantown. How are things with you, Fish?
Excellent, sir. And do you see this story, by the way, that the Davidic dynasty, yes, the dynasty of King David, people are wanting to actually restore it because there are genealogical records now that are proving certain lines belong among the descendants of King David.
I did see that. Of course, anytime I see news that has David in it, I get interested anyways.
Right.
Of course, my David ties into David Jones of the Monkees, which is an older story.
Right.
But yeah, it's fascinating. I think that the one thing that has to be taken into account is the biblical traditions, and you have the genealogical written record. And I think that, I believe in the article, it discusses lines back to a rabbinical family of the 12th century. So it's getting beyond that. It's what paper trail that you have and where it bases on faith versus fact.
So you're telling me there's just a little bit of skepticism in your mind?
Well, I wouldn't say skepticism, because I believe that in genealogy and history, a lot of times we have to take theories that are given, and then the proof does actually sometimes pan out. I have not reviewed the documents myself. I mean, I'm in support of any scholar's theory until I dig into it and say, well, I don't know. But I would say that I'm open-minded.
Okay. Let's move on with our family histoire news today. What do you have for us, bud?
I'll tell you, one of the things that is really nice when you find documents relating to your family, and I know we talked earlier this week about that 1790 bill of sale. That's quite fascinating when you can find a document when your ancestor has been property sold.
Right, as a slave. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, I think for African American research, a lot of people wouldn't have that paper trail. So this is, I wouldn't say a 1 in a million, but a 1 in 100,000 chance of finding a document like this that's been preserved. And I know that the story is definitely whetting the appetite for other people to search out these type of documents. I mean, it's just fascinating that this was found in the Rye Historical Society in Rye, New York.
Yeah, and the guy who found it, 21 years old, he's been a genie since he was 13, passionate about his family. He contacted them because he understood understood that estate papers from somebody who may have owned his ancestor were being held there. So he brought his uncle down, and they were actually able to hold the bill of sale of their ancestor from 1790, his sixth great-grandmother. What a story.
It really is. And so my hat's off to Dennis Richmond Jr., who is the genealogist who located this. And I see that he was influenced by Alex Haley's roots, as myself and many other people were.
So many.
Watching it on TV.
Yeah, great stuff. All right, what else do you have for us?
Well, heading a little further southwest, a lot of people have Civil War ancestors, and some of them had previously fought in the Mexican War, just like Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant. They will be part of a greater project which involves the Federation of Genealogical Societies and the National Park Service. They want to go out, fish, and document all 130,000 plus U.S.-Mexican war soldiers.
That is incredible. And that'll get done fairly quickly when you compare it to the Civil War, which had so many more members of the military on both sides.
That's wonderful. I've already signed up to get on the muster roll to help out, and I hope other people do as well.
Excellent.
Going a little further into modern history, a really touching story of a young teenager that was killed in 1973. His body is now being returned to the family. Mary Raskin, the mother of a teen named Joseph Joey Norman Spears, escaped a youth detention center in 1973, and it's turned out that this missing teen was one that was struck by a vehicle crossing the highway in Texas City, Texas. What's fascinating about this is a cemetery worker knew that there was this unidentified body, and it was Chelsea Davidson's passion to track down who this person was and found the family.
Isn't that incredible? Great story. And, you know, so many people are into the records and know that they can make such a difference in filling in holes when somebody's lost.
There are so many thousands of unidentified bodies that remain in cemeteries, and now with the advent of DNA, it's really going to be helpful to maybe put some identities to these lost people.
Excellent stuff. All right, what's your tip for today, my friend?
Well, it kind of ties into cemeteries. Over the weekend, I was at a cemetery where my great-great-grandparents are buried, and what my suggestion was to the office is that their family is not gone. I went in and I gave them my name and address and said I'd like to be the contact person. The last time anybody was buried in this plot, which only has 4 burials in it, was 1902. So I thought 114 years was long enough to wait, and I'm going to rally my family and get a gravestone for it.
What a great idea. All right, and your free database for this week?
Guest users of AmericanAncestors.org can take advantage of 3 new exciting databases that we have. That includes Dover, New Hampshire vital records from the 17th century down to 1892, Hartford, Connecticut General Index of land records from the 17th century through 1839, and the one I'm really excited about are all the births recorded in the city of Boston between 1800 and 1849, which will catch some of the people that came in during the potato famine.
Wow, that's a big one.
It is. Looking forward to seeing you sometime soon, my friend, and all of our listeners who will be out at the FGS conference in Springfield, Illinois at the end of August, beginning of September. Again, swing by and say hello.
All right, David, good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure.
And this segment has been brought to you by 23andMe.com DNA. And coming up next, we're going to talk to genealogist Michael Strauss about oddfellows and mooses and eagles and masons, and where you find their records and what might be in those records. That's in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andMe.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andMe.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andMe.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andMe.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andMe.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andMe.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andMe.com.
Well, genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need myheritage.com.
You know, everybody needs a place of their own to plant their family tree, preferably one that no one else can mess with and only you can control. That perfect place is Roots Magic. Roots Magic has been a family history standard for years, and now Roots Magic 7 is on the market. It's an award-winning genealogical software program which makes researching, organizing, and sharing your family history easy. You can start from scratch or import data from other software, or even Family Search. Roots Magic also automatically finds records relating to your ancestors from MyHeritage, Family Search, and soon Ancestry and Find My Past. You can use it to create beautiful charts, reports, and books. And have you ever thought about making your own family history website? Roots Magic can make that happen too. And of course, there are free videos, guides, and technical support to help you along. Isn't it about time you planted your family tree? Whether you're a beginning genie or experienced professional, Roots Magic is the perfect tool for you.
So many of us have ancestors from back in the day that belong to various fraternal organizations, particularly the Masons. And you may not be aware, and I wasn't so much, as to how many records are actually out there relating to these people and these organizations, your ancestors, until I heard Michael Strauss lecture on this whole thing. He's a professional genealogist. He's a national genealogical lecturer, a Pennsylvania native, and he's on the phone with me right now. Hello, Michael. Welcome to Extreme Genes.
Hello, Scott. Good to talk with you.
You know, I'm very excited about this because there are so many organizations, and I thought maybe we'd start out with a little list of the most common ones, maybe how they got started, and their significance within the culture of the United States, especially in the 18th and 19th centuries, maybe even before that. Where did you get your background in this?
Well, it came about twofold for me, actually. With my family, I was able to acquire a photograph that was given to me by one of my family members on my dad's side. And we knew who the image was just based on the person's photograph, but the individual was wearing a uniform that had regalia on it. And none of us recognized what that was. So I immediately started to research and try to figure out what it was, and it wound up being a member of the International Order of Oddfellows. And that really kind of started me on my journey towards looking at what this interest in Masonic groups, as that is a Masonic group itself. And the other, my other focus on it came about as my great-grandfather was a 30-plus year member of the Loyal Order of the Moose, and I remember him. I remember him since I was a kid, and he died when I was quite young, but I remember him going to meetings. I remember him talking with members of our family about all the stuff that he did with the Moose. And a lot of people might not consider the Moose to be a fraternal group in nature. I mean, most people think just the Masons and the larger groups, but I would venture to say that groups like the Elks and the Oreos and the Moose themselves, they're all fraternal groups as well, more on a social level,
right,
but still fraternal groups in nature.
And these organizations had constitutions and laws and rituals and secret handshakes and uniforms, and they had pet charities, too, things they did a lot of service for as well. Yet the names, I think, always kind of make people laugh when they hear them, and you got to wonder where some of this came from. Did you ever find out where did the Order of the Moose come up with their name?
No, I did not know as far as where the name originally had come from. I was able to figure out details about their organization going back to when they were first organized, but where some of these organizations got their information from. As far as putting it together is sometimes a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I'm thinking most of us learned about fraternal organizations from watching Fred Flintstone when we were kids. The Order of the Water Buffaloes.
Yes, definitely something in our contemporary society that we can all relate to as children.
What percentage of adult men do you think were involved in these fraternal organizations, say in the 1800s?
Well, in the 1800s, we're talking obviously the bulk of the 19th century, so I would say probably a very large percentage of men were involved in some organization or another. What really, frankly, startled me was the sheer number of organizations there were out there. In a lecture format, you can really only go over a handful of organizations in an hour or an hour and 15 minutes, and you hit on the big organizations. What shocked me was there are tens of thousands of these organizations, even smaller ones. And if you really think about it in that sort of context, you're talking a lot of people that were involved, not just the men. I want to point out also that there were women involved as well. And my great-grandmother was right alongside my great-grandfather, and they had a women's auxiliary, if you will, of the Moose. And she was just as supportive in that organization as he was.
Now, what did the Moose do?
Well, the Moose was more of a benevolent group, and they were really involved with helping their local communities. I remember my great-grandfather talking about two organizations that were part of the Moose. The one was called Moose Heart, and the other was Moose Haven. They were basically, Moose Haven was a retirement center that was located in Florida. And he was part of the building of that facility. Now, he lived in Pennsylvania. He was a Pennsylvania native. But because he was in the hierarchy of the Moose, he went to a lot of these larger national level things that they were doing.
Now, the Masons was a different kind of thing altogether, and it's evolved over time. What do we know about the origins of the Masons, what they were, and what are they today?
Well, with the Masons, frankly, Scott, if I tell you, I'd have to kill you.
Yeah, I know.
No, we don't want to do that. No, the Masons, you didn't sound too happy about that.
No, I get concerned.
The Masons, well, and you should be. The Masons can really trace their history back a number of centuries. Back to England is their origins. And when they came to the United States, the organization moved to the United States as obviously people settled here in the colonies. And they really trace their history back to the very earliest part of our country. I joined the Masons in Virginia, where I used to live. You mentioned I'm a native of Pennsylvania, which I am. And I'm a resident of Utah now, and I lived in Virginia Beach last 8 years up to moving to Utah this last year. I moved last fall. And my father is a Mason in Pennsylvania. My son, Levi, is a Mason in Virginia, and I am also one. So we actually have 3 generations of membership in our family. So and that's not uncommon, by the way, to have multiple generations following in the same thought process. And with the Masons, they don't approach you for membership. You must seek them out to be a member, as you have the interest in joining their organization. A couple things about Masonry that you should probably need to know is Masonry it's kind of divided into 2 groups, if you will. There are what are called Ancient Free and Accepted Masons, or AF and AM. You might have seen those that acronym used. And then there's what are called Free and Accepted Masons, or F and AM. In Virginia, it's AF and AM, as those lodges are much older. That was a lodge George Washington would have joined in Virginia when he first became a Mason. Mm-hmm. And then in Pennsylvania and Utah, it's F and AM lodges. And they really have a rich history going back a number of years. And with Masonry, they don't come out and say that you have to have a belief in God in particular. You have to have a belief in a higher being or a supreme being. And what I was explained to me was Masonry is set up in such a way that it teaches good men to be better. And that's what really focused me in on wanting to join. And with myself, my wife was involved in this, in the interviewing process for me to join, because she needed to be on board as to, supporting me and my interest in belonging to this organization.
Interesting.
And that's what really started me on that road to light, if you will, as Masonry is all about seeking light or knowledge.
Can Masonry be traced back to one specific country as far as its origins go?
Yes, England is where it originated, in London specifically. 1717 is the earliest year recorded.
Huh. Now, I was thinking there was a much earlier version of this. I mean, certainly if you watch the movies, right, with Harrison Ford and all this, there's always some secret order of something that goes back very, very early, and the symbolism and all this. Where did the symbolism come from?
Well, I think part of the symbolism had come from possibly with the Crusades. And I think maybe some of that might be a bit Hollywoodized. Obviously.
Yeah, the Knights Templar, right?
Right, exactly. And that's more historical than I think it is the Masons, per se, as far as an organization. The Masons themselves, as an organized body, really didn't function as an organized body itself until really the early 18th century.
So these groups now, was there a religious tie initially? I mean, you mentioned a belief in God. There was nothing further than that. Were there groups that were excluded from becoming Masons in the early days?
In the early days, not specifically groups that were not allowed. I believe there was some anti-Catholic rhetoric that might have precluded them. What I was really surprised to learn was that they did allow for families of Jewish origin to be members of the Masons. And I had just given a lecture at the Jewish Genealogy Conference this past week in Seattle, and my lecture was on, obviously, on Masonic groups, but I focused in on those groups that were of Jewish origin. And it was really neat to find out that the number of Jewish organizations there were that were of Masonic origin, a number of those men that organized those groups, and there were more than half a dozen very large ones, had all come from the Masons. Almost all of those men had been prior Masons.
So a lot of people could expect, if they could find the records, to actually tie their ancestors into these groups. Was it more popular in the 19th century than, say, the last half of the 20th century or today?
I believe so. I believe that people had a need to belong to an organization as it would have been tied directly to their community.
Oh, okay. And it was also part of their social networking, yes?
Absolutely, because think about it. If you're talking a small town, just as an example, if you're speaking of a small community of, say, 1,000 people, which is, a typical small town America, you might have had maybe one or two specific Masonic-related fraternal groups, and maybe not the Masons in particular, but a fraternal organization. And probably most every adult male would have been a member of that group in some form or another.
I got it. All right. So there are records out there, and we're going to get into this coming up here in the next segment. Are there central records? Are there records for each individual local thing? Give us a little taste of what we're going to talk about in the next segment, Michael.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. There are quite a bit of records available. What I found very early on in researching this sort of documentation for these groups was that if a group does not no longer exist, I have found oftentimes that the records were turned over to a repository that would have an interest in preserving those records.
All right, we're going to hold it right there, Michael. We're going to get into more when we come back on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. This segment of the program brought to you by MyHeritage.com.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Hovorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
And we are back. Extreme Genes, America's family history show on ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment of our show is brought to you by RootsMagic.com. And I'm talking to Michael Strauss. He's a professional genealogist and a national genealogical lecturer, a Pennsylvania native. And he's really into the fraternal organizations. And we spent our last segment talking a lot about the Masons and the Moose and the Odd Fellows. And Michael, we're going to talk about records today because so many of us have ancestors, I certainly do, who are members of the organizations you referenced the first time around. Where are the records for these things? Not a lot of them are online yet.
Well, there are some that are online, but I had, as we had mentioned in the last segment at the very end, when I had acquired that image of my great-great-grandfather, I immediately sought to obtain any sort of records. I mean, clearly, if you have a photo, you're going to want something to go with it.
Right.
So I had found out that the lodge, of course, was long since gone by then, as it was an old lodge, and I sought to look for where I could find the records. And I was not shocked when I found all of those records turned over to the local Genealogical Society in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, where I was raised. And not only did they have the records of the lodge, they had images of other members of the lodge, they had pictures of the building where they met, they had their bylaws. It was literally a box of genealogical information that I could not have turned down.
Just
and
gold,
I
huh?
learned more about I learned more about my great-great-grandfather in an afternoon than I could have learned just researching online for days.
Wow, what fun.
It was a godsend.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, is that typical that these organizations, because many of them are gone now, that they would have turned them over to the local genealogical society or a library?
Yes, that is very typical. We are finding more and more an interest, I think, in these organizations when they cease to exist. I think there's a desire to keep their legacy alive. And as such, they're turned over to societies and libraries and colleges and universities that might have a special collection within their the ranks of their library stuff there. So, I mean, there's lots of great stuff. But then you also find the other end of it, the spectrum, when you have an organization that still exists. One of my other ancestors on my mother's side of the family, direct ancestor, his name was George Waltz. He was also from Lebanon, and he was a member of the Masons. And he was a member of the lodge in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, before moving to Lebanon. Well, that lodge still exists today. It's Lodge 43 in Lancaster. I contacted them by way of email, and they wrote me back, and not only did they confirm that he was a member of the lodge, but they sent me the lodge docket books that listed when he was placed into the lodge, when he officially was given his first degree of masonry as an entered apprentice, and when he actually was raised to that of a master mason. What fascinated me more so about the story was he was in the lodge at the same exact time as the leader of that lodge, who was called the Worshipful Master, a man by the name of James Buchanan, who later became our American president.
Oh, wow.
So he would have socialized at the lodge and would have thought about the same things that were important to him that would have been important to President James Buchanan, who obviously wasn't president at that time. It was in the 1820s. But it was really pretty cool to be able to see that connection between the two men.
No kidding. And the idea, though, that the records from the 1820s was still in the hands of the same organization today, that's amazing.
And it was easily obtained through a simple email for me.
Now, are you finding...
And by the way, no cost.
No cost. Wow. Now, are you finding that any of these organizations are secretive with their records?
No, not in particular, especially with that, as the age was so old. And I told them up front my interest. I said, look, this is my fourth great grandfather. I know he was a member of your lodge. This is what information I had. And they, in turn, just simply said, yeah, we'll be happy to share with you what we have.
Now, there's far more stuff not online concerning the Masons in particular, and many other orders, than there is online at this point. What percentage would you say it is that's even online at all?
Well, online percentage is obviously very low.
Yeah.
If we were to give a ballpark guess, and that's probably all we could really do, probably about 10 to 15% might be online. I do know that Ancestry.com carries the Mason records for their entire state, as those were all turned over to the state organization. And I believe the date covers 1733 to 1990. It's basically card indexes for their Masons that were a member of any lodge within the confines of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. So you get one state, basically, but it covers a large period.
One state but that covers the whole state, and that covers those almost 2 centuries.
Sure.
As far as other states like that online, I really don't see them other than Massachusetts, the only ones, at least for the Masons at this point.
I would have thought 10 to 15% was much higher than I thought you were going to say.
Well, there are other documents out there that have been scanned and placed online. Google Books or archive.org have scanned and placed online a number of books and periodicals that have survived over the years and are chock full of genealogy information on our ancestors. It just amazes me.
Now, I was going to ask you, is there more in there other than when they came in and when they left and what degrees they achieved? Does it give birth dates or relationships or family members?
No, it's not that particular. It's more so the organization itself. But what it did include was if the Mason was removed from the organization or transferred to another group, which in his case he did because he moved to neighboring Lebanon County, or if the individual had died while they were a member of the lodge, it would include a death date. Now think about that for a moment. If it had a death date, you're talking many, many years before the prospect of having a death certificate.
Yeah, that's right.
It been filed that early.
So to summarize then, Michael, what you're saying here is that we really need to research kind of the old-fashioned way now, right? Going to libraries, archives, repositories, contacting people personally and individually, because relatively speaking, there's not a whole lot of this online at the moment.
Correct. At this point, there's not a lot online, but that's not to say that more might come tomorrow or the next day. I mean, we all know that the information highway is constantly being added.
Sure.
But for me, at least, an important part for me for doing genealogy research is if you do it the hard way, as you so said, you are really learning the methodology on how to do genealogy.
Yes.
That will never take the place of online research.
All right, so let's talk about today, the modern fraternal organizations and exactly what they do today that might be different from back in the day that's kind of fun.
Well, with myself, I was quite shocked to learn that there are a number of organizations that have survived over the years, but there were a number of organizations that never quite made it. I always like to kind of end my talks on kind of a lighter note. And I was shocked at the number of groups there were that just bizarre named organizations that you would never, ever consider to be a group name whatsoever. How people thought this stuff up it's beyond my comprehension. One such group that was founded in the 1920s was a group called the Order of the Anti-Poke Noses.
What?
And their motto and their image that they display online is an image of a couple sitting on a chair or a bench or something, and there's this large exploded sort of head that's stretching over top of the fence with a very long Pinocchio nose, kind of just in their business. And their motto was to oppose any organization that attend to everyone else's business but their own.
Ah.
And I love the rhetoric that they use. Obviously, the organization didn't last very long, as it only survived a mere few years. But it's neat to know how our ancestors and our family members thought, even those that might have joined a group like that.
He's Michael Strauss. He's a national genealogical lecturer and professional genealogist. Michael, thanks so much for your time on this. This is great stuff. A lot of material we really haven't talked about on the show before, and that just tells us there is a treasure trove out there for us to find on our ancestors. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate being here with you.
And coming up next, we're going to talk to Tom Perry. He's our preservation authority from tmcplace.com. That's in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Legacy Tree Genealogists is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. legacytree.com.
When someone asks, what is Forever.com, I tell them it's a new kind of digital storage, like for your photos and documents and all the family memories. And they always shoot back with, well, that's not a very new thing. There's Facebook, Shutterfly, Flickr. Then I say, oh, but on Forever, you own all your content. There's no third-party ads, and it's guaranteed for your lifetime, plus 100 years. Do the others do that? Okay, so like I said, Forever.com, a new kind of digital storage. You are the chief memory officer of your family. You get that frantic phone call about the reunion in 2 days and they need the slideshow, and you're ready because you use Forever.com. Photos, news clippings, heck, you automatically upload the photos on your cell phone every day. You have everything digitally stored and organized where you can share it privately with your friends and family. No ads, and it's permanent, guaranteed for generations. Yes, you are the chief memory officer, and you have Forever.com.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Welcome back to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. This segment is brought to you by Forever.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, with Captain Preservation, Tom Perry from TMCplace.com. Hello, Tommy. How are you?
Super duper.
Are you ready for Christmas? I mean, I can't even believe we were having this conversation off air here a little bit ago. It's this time of year we need to be thinking about this?
Yep, I don't have on this red hat just to bring out my rosy cheeks. September's the time. You need to start getting ready. You think, September, I got months. No. Most transfer and duplication centers you're going to find across the country really get busy the first part of October. And if you wait too long, some of your tougher tasks might not be able to get done. So you need to get your stuff organized now. Start putting together a plan of attack and get ready for Christmas. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Now, I remember in past years, you've been pretty quiet in the summer, but this year it's kind of picked up for some reason.
Oh, it's been unbelievable. This is the biggest summer we've ever had. It's especially slides. I don't know why these are coming out of the woodwork right now, but we have done probably close to 100,000 slides in the month of September. Just absolutely crazy.
You know, that makes me feel good because I remember when we first started this show in 2013, one of the things you were concerned about most was that people were throwing away their slides because there wasn't any way to scan them and there wasn't any way to view them because they didn't have the machines and they didn't want to deal with them, and then they were in carousels. So they were getting rid of them, and it just about made your hair fall. Well, it did. But so people, it seems like there's an attitude change concerning slides.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this show has been a big thing in helping people understand that. Don't throw things away. You might have, in the old days when we shot pictures, we didn't know what we got until the slides came back or the negatives and the prints came back. So we were sometimes a little bit more careful, or we just shot, crazily if you could buy film cheap. And then you're looking at this stuff and say, why do I have this picture of this big hole in the ground? Yeah, it's a Grand Canyon, but I can go to the gift shop and buy a lot better picture.
Right.
And people shooting outside cars and everything's blurry. And those ones, throw them away. Go ahead and throw them away. But if you have anything that has people in it, family, something very unique, you want to hang on to those. You want to get them scanned. And, there's a lot of systems you can buy and do it at home if you want the absolute best possible. Find a local place in your area that can do it or send it to us. And if you have specific questions, let us know exactly what your end use is, which we talk a lot about. We can help you with knowing what resolution you want to do it at. If all you're doing is just very basic stuff, you're going to put them on your Facebook page and never do any more than that. Yeah, some of the home scanners will work for you, but just kind of think down the road, say, hey, are my kids and grandkids want to do something more with these things? So it's always better to scan at a higher DPI and then never really need it than scan at like 72 or 150 and go, oh, dang, I would love to have made this in my Christmas card or a poster for the family or a calendar, but it's just too small a DPI. So be careful. And the one thing you have to remember, too, if you've got hundreds or even thousands of slides, you don't have to think, oh, my gosh, that's going to cost too much. Take out your very special ones, the most important ones to you, and take to someplace like us that can do a good, high-quality scan. And then the other ones, do them on your home scanner, when you got some free time. And just remember, you don't have to scan everything the most expensive way. Some of them you can do a little bit cheaper. Your very choice ones, those are the ones you want to take to somebody that really knows what they're going to do and give you a really good scan.
Let me ask you a silly question, though. If you've got these slides inside a couple of pieces of cardboard, there's a certain thickness to it.
Correct.
If you put that on your own scanner, that raises it above the level of the scanner. Does that affect the focus?
Yes, it can. Most scanners have a wider depth of field, so to speak, so they can scan them and look okay. But the professional scanners, they can adjust for everything. They know exactly how thick they are. And that's a good question because we do cardboard ones, we do glass ones, we do aluminum ones, all different kinds. And so you really need to take that into account. That's a good question. In the next segment, we're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do to get ready for Christmas. So you're going to have your things in line. So when Christmas comes up, you're ready to rock and roll.
All right. Sounds good. Coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com. 23andme.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
And we are back for our final segment of Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show on extremegenes.com. We're talking preservation with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. Tom, I was out doing a presentation last night and had a lot of questions about preservation. And when we were talking about slides, the question came up about the carousels. And you've always maintained that's really the best way to store them, right?
It's the best way to store them. It keeps the dust off of them.
But there's a lot of slides in there. It seems to me that takes up a lot of space.
Oh, it does. In fact, there's two sizes of carousels. Now, when I'm talking about carousels, I'm generally referring to Kodak. There's other off-brands, but basically your Kodak carousels, they're the best. They come in usually 80s and 130s. And so the best thing to do if you're going to have us scan them is bring them in like that, because the dust is going to be less, even though we still go with a scroll tail brush and clean them off and, air them off and things like that to transfer them. That's the best system to bring them into us or ship them to us. That's the best way to go. Now you think, oh, I just don't have room for all these carousels. We had somebody the other day brought in 150 of them.
Oh.
So, that one job was like 1,500 slides.
That's like a separate room or something to store them. Wow.
It was. In fact, we bought another scanner because we've been going through so many slides. If storage is really a problem, you're downsizing to a tiny house or something like that, what I suggest you do is bring them into us or somebody in your area that you can trust and have all your slides scanned. Then once they're scanned, you don't need your carousels anymore. Then you can go ahead and put them in a Ziploc bag. And like we've talked about shows in the past, you want to make sure you don't have any humidity. If you're in Florida or a place with high humidity, we recommend getting some cheesecloth, putting some uncooked whole grain rice, not minute rice, in a little bag, and then tying it with string and putting it in with your Ziploc bags because it'll absorb the moisture. And put them in Ziploc bags, put them in a shoebox someplace. Once you put them in there, seal it all the way around the edges, everything, and that's going to help keep dust and critters from getting in there and causing problems. And then at that time, you can get rid of your carousels. A lot of libraries still use them. We have customers bring them in and drop them off to us all the time that we can then lend to customers that want to be able to go through, their 1,000 slides and pick out what ones they want, and they put them in a carousel, then bring them back to us. So there's always use for them. Don't throw them in the trash. But, once you've got them scanned, do that. But before you get them scanned, keep them in the carousel. That's definitely the best way to store them.
All right, Tom, we were talking earlier about the holidays getting close. What's the schedule people need to adhere to when it comes to slides?
Okay, you need to really get on it right now because slides usually most places a week, 2 weeks, something like that. But right now, like I say, summer, which is usually quiet for us, we've been promising out 4 weeks, and this is pretty much across the country. All the legitimate places out there are taking longer to do them, and you really want to use a local place that does them locally because when you go to the big box stores, there's just a number. They just go through them and do them. Most of your local places are going to take the time to clean them off the best they can. They're going to orientate them correctly. The slowest thing right now is probably videos. Videos usually only take a week, maybe 2 weeks, but be careful what you have. We can do a ton more VHSs than we can mini DVs, video 8s. And most places across the country are the same way as that because they have a lot more VHS equipment and video 8 machines and things they're disappearing and they're hard to get a hold of. So even though it's usually a week, 2 weeks, you need to start planning on everything 4 weeks up until November. And then once you're in November, all bets are off. You have no idea how fast people are going to be able to knock stuff out. So you need to plan on having all your stuff scanned no later than the end of October into some kind of a place, or you're not going to be able to get it for Christmas. Plus, you got to realize there's things you want to do on the south end. Are you going to want to make a slideshow, or are you going to want to go in and mix video and film and all these kind of things? And remember, if you're going high definition film, all your local places that do true scanning of 8mm, Super 8, and 60mm film, they're going to have this stuff in no later than the end of October, or there's no way you're going to get it for Christmas.
All right. And film, same thing?
Exactly.
All right, Tom. Good to see you.
See you next week.
And this segment has been brought to you by LegacyTree.com and FamilySearch.org. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to check into ExtremeGenes.com and sign up for our new newsletter, The Weekly Genie. It is free and chock full of good information and fun stories. And, of course, when you do sign up, you'll get David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogist. Talk to you next week. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.